and welcome to CJ's Keto Kitchen. Today we are going to be making a sugar-free dessert. It is a 4-layer cream cheese pudding dessert, and I've made this before for years in the sugar-laden version, and so this time we're going to be making it sugar-free and as keto as possible. So here we have our ingredients. We're going to be using blanched almond flour, Swerve, which is sugar-free confectioner sugar, so it's erythritol that's made into a powdered form, so it's like powdered sugar. Some heavy whipping cream, and we're going to be using quite a bit of it because we are using it whipped, and we're also going to be using it to make the pudding. So we're using sugar-free butterscotch pudding. You can do any flavor you want. Chocolate, lemon, a lot of people really like pistachio, so it's up to personal choice, but you are going to need 2 packages of the 3.5 ounce ones. And you're going to need 8 ounces of cream cheese, a 1/2 cup of chopped nuts. I'm using pecans in this case, and it's all going to go in a 9 by 13 inch pan. So to begin, we are going to need to make the crust. So you're going to want to set your oven at 350 degrees in the middle rack, and we're going to make the crust using the pecans and the almond flour. And I forgot to mention that you also need a 1/2 cup of butter. So I'm going to get that out of the refrigerator, and it needs to be melted because we're going to make a crust with the almond flour and the pecans, and we're going to put it in the bottom of our 9 by 13 inch pan. So it's a good idea if you grease your pan first, just to make sure that when it comes time to get it out, you can get the crust out. So I've greased the bottom of my pan in anticipation for the crust. I've put my nuts in the bottom of the bowl, and I have my cup of almond flour, and I'm using Blanched. The only difference is the peels are taken off the almonds, and it tends to make it easier for baking because you can see the doneness of something, especially with crusts. So I need a cup of that, and sometimes it can get little lumps in it just like regular flour, so you just kind of want to break that up. And then I have my melted 1/2 cup of butter, which is a stick basically of butter melted. And I'm just going to mix that around and make it softened so that I can spread it in the bottom of the pan. So it kind of makes, a soft crust. And we just want it on the very bottom of our layered dessert. It doesn't need to go up the sides. So just spread it all around. And your fingers are usually best. So clean hands. And like I said, we are going to bake this for about 10 to 15 minutes. At a 350 degree oven until it just gets lightly browned and set. And that's going to provide basically it's like a shortbread crust. So just try and make it as even as possible. And then we'll put it in the oven. So here's how it looks before we're done with the baking process. So we just need about 15 minutes. I'll set the timer and we'll see you back in about 15 minutes. Welcome back. I've taken the crust out of the oven after 15 minutes, and this is what it looks like. So it's lightly golden brown, and it's been cooling for about 10-15 minutes. So it's just slightly warm now, but not hot out of the oven, because the next layer that we're going to do is the cream cheese layer, and then we're going to put that onto the cooled crust, so you don't want it to be too warm. So what we need for that is an 8 ounce brick of cream cheese, any kind, and I have let mine sit out for the afternoon, so you can even let cream cheese sit out overnight if you want to, if you're going to be making it in the morning. So we're going to take out our softened cream cheese. If I can get it out of the package. I'm not good at that. Maybe not. I think I'll just cut it. And to that, we are going to use our Swerve, which is erythritol, and it's powdered, so it's powdered sugar consistency. So it is just like powdered sugar, and you use it 1-to-1. You use whatever you're going to use in a regular powdered sugar recipe, you would use the same amount in this. So we need a 1/2 cup. And then we're going to mix it with our mixer. And because it's powdered sugar, you want to start out your mixer fairly slow so that you're not wearing all the powdered sugar. Same thing with cocoa and flour. So when it's softened, it whips up pretty quickly, and it looks almost kind of like cream cheese frosting. But to that, we're going to add about a cup of whipped cream. Now the original recipe, the sugared recipe, calls for Cool Whip, and I prefer to use whole food ingredients, so I'm not going to use Cool Whip, even the sugar-free kind, because I'd rather use real whipped cream. So it's usually about 1.5. So if you want 8 ounces of Cool Whip, which is what the recipe calls for, then you basically need 1.5 cups of whipped cream. So I've already whipped that. It's in the refrigerator. Part of the recipe calls for adding a cup of this into this here cream cheese mixture. So I'm going to take my cup, fill it up with the whipped cream. And in this whipped cream, I have also added the Swerve to taste. So it all depends on how sweet you like your whipped cream. So here's what it looks like. It's almost like cheesecake is basically the consistency. So we're just going to spread that on top of the cooled crust. And I find if you just plunk everything kind of in the middle, then you can take your spatula and spread it around. It's best to start from the center so that you don't really disrupt the crust, because you want to leave the crust as solid as possible. Basically like frosting a cake. And of course, you know, the more even you can get it, the better, so it gives it that pretty layered effect when you're all finished. So then we will pop this in the refrigerator while we make our... So I've put the 2 packages of butterscotch pudding in the bowl. And like I said before, it's the 3.5 ounce size, so it's 2 regular boxes worth. And like I said previously, you can make it any flavor you want, any kind of pudding, Jell-O pudding that they make. And again, this is the sugar-free version, but it's butterscotch. And then I'm going to take 3 cups of whipping cream. The recipe calls for milk, but milk would not be low carb, so the cream is. So then we're going to mix that in here, and it's instant pudding. If I failed to mention that, it's instant. You do not want the cook and serve. that would just take too much time, and the instant is going to be a little thicker, and you're only going to add the 3 cups of water, because on the back of the box, or I'm sorry, 3 cups of the whipping cream, because on the back of the box it calls for 4 cups, and that would make the pudding not the right consistency for being viscous enough to lay on top of our 4-layer dessert. So I'm going to pour these in and start mixing. Using the whipping cream, it's not going to take as long to make it into instant pudding as you would normally if you were just going to make the pudding, because it whips it up into basically whipped cream, but flavored whipped cream. So I'll show you the consistency. It's very thick, just like the cream cheese was. So now we're going to spread that on top of the layer that we just put on. I'd had it chilling in the refrigerator. So we want to do this exactly like we did the last layer, just kind of put it right in the middle and then spread everything out. Try and make it as even as you can. We are going to cover this layer with the 4th layer to make the 4-layer cream cheese pudding dessert. But we are going to let this chill overnight in the refrigerator, and then right before we serve it, we will whip up the remaining layer, which is just whipped cream, and then we will assemble it right before we serve. So be sure and come back for that layer. Thank you. So far we have our 3 layers, and you can see, you'd be able to see a lot easier if I had a clear Pyrex container. Mine is tinted blue, but you can see the 3 layers already that we have going, and they're just going to continue to solidify by chilling overnight in the refrigerator. So that's why they call it a 4-layer dessert. So it's really quite pretty if you have a clear container. So that's what I recommend if you have one, just because it looks so pretty. Now to do our 4th layer, we want to take a pint of heavy whipping cream and put it into our bowl of our mixer, and go ahead and start mixing it, and then we will add our Swerve confectioner's sugar to taste, and that would have to be completely up to you. It's easier to add a little bit more than take away if it's too sweet, so start out with less and then add more if you need to. And then we're just going to whip it to stiff peaks, just like you would regular whipping cream. And then when we are done with that, we are going to take it and spread it onto our other 3 layers and spread it around. It's easier to start from the center and work out. And then we are going to take our sugar-free candy, and you can use any kind of toffee, which is what I used, any kind of toffee candy, and smash it up and sprinkle it on top, and then cover it and chill. And here we are, ready to serve. It's chilled nicely for 2 hours. You can also chill it overnight if you would like. The first piece is a little hard to get out generally, but this one slid out just fine. And it's really nice if you have it on a plate so you can see the beautiful layers when you serve it. Also remember that you can try this in any flavor of pudding that you would like. Be creative and have fun. Enjoy, and thanks for watching CJ's Keto Kitchen. Bye-bye.